9 of the biggest names in professional golf are publicly pushing back against Brian Rolapp's rule changes, and the U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills is less than 3 weeks away. Fields cut, exempt cards slashed, tournament rules rewritten and dropped into a live season with no warning. The locker room is not quiet about it, and this is not one player venting after a bad round. Multiple voices, multiple major champions, all saying the same thing in different ways. The people running this sport are making decisions that hurt the product and the players who play it. The U.S. Open is where all of this collides. The same governing body the players already distrust is running the biggest test of the year on one of the most punishing courses in American golf. What exactly changed? Who is leading the pushback? And why this specific major became the flashpoint for the entire tour? That is what we are walking through. Every decision, every reaction, every consequence heading into Shinnecock. You will have the full picture by the end of this. Personally, I think the players have every right to push back when rules change mid-season without a vote. Drop "let them play" in the comments if you agree, or tell me why you see it differently. Subscribe if you want the full breakdown as this story develops heading into the Open. This is far from finished. The structural changes alone were enough to fracture the locker room. One specific tournament rule already cost a player his spot in a qualifier, and he did not even realize he was breaking it until the 9th hole. Rolapp's first swing was at the tour's structure. Full field events dropped from 156 players to 144. Smaller events went from 132 to 120. Fully exempt cards, the ones that guaranteed a player his spot for the entire season, got cut from 125 down to 100. 25 players lost guaranteed status overnight. The tour's official explanation was pace of play. The players did not accept that for a second. One veteran called the reasoning insulting in a press conference. A major champion publicly backed him, saying it was pathetic that the same excuse resurfaces every year and nothing ever actually changes. The message from the locker room was clear. You are cutting careers and dressing it up as a logistics problem. Those 25 players who lost exempt status are not names you see on Sunday leaderboards. They are the guys grinding for every start, the ones who built their entire lives around keeping that card. For them, this was not a structural adjustment. It was a career threat delivered in a memo. The tour framed it as modernization. The players experiencing it framed it as survival. That gap in language tells you everything about the disconnect between the people making the decisions and the people living with them. Those structural cuts threatened livelihoods. The tournament rule changes that followed threatened the actual competition, and one of them was about to prove how dangerous a mid-season rule drop can be. Alongside the field reductions, Rolapp's competition committee introduced 6 new tournament rules for 2026. No preseason rollout, no grace period, no player vote. They landed effective immediately. The most disruptive of the 6. The preferred lies rule. For years, when lift, clean, and place was active, a player could drop within 1 full club length of the original spot, roughly 46 inches of relief. That number is now the length of a scorecard. About 11 inches. Every drop in preferred lies conditions just got tighter, and the margin for error shrank by 3/4 overnight. The other 5 rules cover embedded ball relief, ball movement penalties, obstruction relief near greens, internal out of bounds, and mid-round club repair. Each one sounds minor in isolation. Together, they reshape how a tournament round is played from the first tee to the last putt. 6 rules, all at once, no warning. One of them is already the reason a veteran pro walked off a Monday qualifier mid-round, because he spent 9 holes breaking a rule he did not know existed. Sam Ryder, 36 years old, a tour veteran who has ground through Monday qualifiers for most of his career. He teed it up at the Valspar qualifier with preferred lies in effect. He lifted his ball, cleaned it, and dropped it. Standard procedure. Except the drop distance had changed. Ryder used the old rule. Full club length, 46 inches. He played 9 holes at 3 under, cruising, feeling good about his number. Then it hit him. The rule was no longer 46 inches. It was 11, a scorecard. He had been dropping outside the legal area for 9 consecutive holes. He had not gained a massive advantage. A few inches here, a few inches there. Technically, by the rules, he had been playing outside the competition for half his round. He withdrew, called it unintentional cheating. A professional golfer, a veteran, accidentally broke a rule because the tour changed a number and he had not fully processed it before competing. Think about what a Monday qualifier actually is. It is the last door into a PGA Tour event. One round, no margin for error. The guys playing them are not comfortable. They are fighting for a single spot, often the last spot, and the pressure of that one round determines whether they play the tournament or drive home. Ryder was 3 under through 9. He was on track. The number was good enough. Then a rule he did not fully absorb erased everything. He did not lose because someone outplayed him. He lost because a number changed from 46 to 11, and the communication did not reach him in a way that stuck before he teed it up. That is not a player problem. That is a system problem. Ryder's mistake was honest, but the system that created it was not. If a veteran cannot track a rule change in real time, who else is about to get caught? They were not willing to stay silent. The first major voice to go public was Justin Thomas. His target was not the PGA Tour's field reductions. His target was the USGA and the golf ball rollback, the decision that will force professional players to use a shorter ball starting in 2028. Thomas called the ruling selfish, said it was bad for the game. Then he delivered the line that got shared everywhere. He asked whether they were going to make the mile longer so the fastest mile time does not change, or raise the NBA rim because players can jump higher. The analogy landed because it exposed the logic in plain language. You do not punish the athlete for being better at the sport. You do not nerf the equipment because the players evolved. The numbers behind the rollback matter here. Official USGA testing puts the distance loss at roughly 12 yards. Independent testing from players and equipment companies pushes that number closer to 15 or 20. For a tour player hitting driver at 180 miles per hour, that is not a tweak. That is a different golf course. Par 5s become par 4s. Approach shots get longer. The courses that were designed for a specific era of equipment suddenly play differently, and the players who spent years calibrating their games to specific yardages have to recalibrate everything. Thomas understood that. His frustration was not about losing an edge. It was about the goalposts moving after the game already started. Thomas lit the match. The next voice made it a fire. Bryson DeChambeau, never one to hold back, called the rollback the most atrocious, uninspiring thing anyone could do to golf. His words, not a paraphrase. From a player who built his entire career on distance and innovation, that criticism carries weight because it comes from the exact person the rule is designed to neutralize. Rory McIlroy took the opposite side publicly, arguing the rollback would barely affect the average golfer and would put the sport on a more sustainable path. The locker room is not unified. It is split down the middle, and the biggest names are fighting each other in the open, while the governing bodies watch. That split is more dangerous than a unified revolt. When all the players agree, the governing bodies can dismiss them as a bloc protecting their own interests. When the players are fighting each other, when Rory is publicly disagreeing with Bryson, when Thomas is going after the USGA while McIlroy defends the long-term logic, the governing bodies can point at the division and say the issue is not settled. The players lose their collective leverage. The conversation becomes player versus player instead of player versus institution. That is exactly where the USGA and the R&A want it. Behind the rollback noise, a quieter fight was brewing over the cuts threatening actual careers, and Lucas Glover was the one who said it loudest. Glover went after the field size reductions and the exempt card slashes head-on, called the pace of play explanation insulting. Matt Fitzpatrick backed him publicly, saying it was pathetic that the same excuse appears every single year and nothing gets done. These are not fringe players complaining. Glover is a US Open champion. Fitzpatrick has 6 tour wins and a major. When they speak, the locker room listens. Shane Lowry's frustration runs deeper than the field cuts. At the 2025 Open Championship at Royal Portrush, he was hit with a 2-stroke penalty for a ball he swore never moved until officials showed him a close-up replay. He took the penalty, said it was hard to swallow. The new ball movement rule exists because of that incident. 1 stroke instead of 2, but only if you did not know the ball moved. The fact that it took a major championship controversy to change a rule tells the players everything about how decisions get made in this sport. Every voice so far has been loud. The one that carries the most weight has been the most measured. Scottie Scheffler does not chase headlines. He does not post on social media. He does not call press conferences to vent. When Sheffler speaks, he picks his words carefully. which is exactly why the room goes quiet. His core frustration is not about distance or field sizes. It is about skill being replaced by luck. At the 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, the course was soaked. Officials refused to allow preferred lies. Sheffler hit a perfect drive into the fairway. His ball picked up mud. That mud ball sent his approach sideways into a double bogey on the 16th. After the round, he called it frustrating. Said a rules decision turned a skills competition into a lottery. At the 2026 PGA Championship at Erin Hills, he was openly critical of the course setup. Greens too firm, pins too brutal. The leaderboard bunched up because difficulty replaced differentiation. When the world number one says the setup is not rewarding great golf, that is not a complaint. That is a verdict. Scheffler's relationship with the US Open adds another layer to his frustration. In 8 career appearances, he has never won it. His best finish was runner-up in 2022. He has posted several top 10s, proving he can contend, but the one major that has resisted him the most is also the one governed by the body he questions. At the 2024 US Open at Pinehurst, he stumbled to a tie for 43rd and described the game of golf as a mental torture chamber. Those words from the most dominant player on the planet told you everything about how the US Open setup can break even the strongest mind. He is not walking into Shinnecock with confidence. He is walking in with a question mark that has followed him for 8 years. 9 voices, 9 different angles, all converging on one 3-week window. Now the USGA gets its turn, and Shinnecock Hills is waiting. The US Open does not belong to Rolapp. It belongs to the USGA. Different leadership, different philosophy, different relationship with the players. The USGA delayed the golf ball rollback weeks before the Open, announcing they were re-evaluating their path forward. Players did not hear flexibility. They heard politics. The decision was supposed to be final. Now it is not. The yardage book crackdown added another layer. Green reading materials restricted mid-season, forcing players to rebuild their preparation routines on the fly. Shinnecock Hills is the stage for all of it. June 18th through the 21st. The last time the US Open was here, 2018, Brooks Koepka won at 1 over par. Third round scoring average above 75. Players walked off calling the course broken. That memory is still alive in the locker room. The 2018 Shinnecock Open is not ancient history. It is the reference point every player uses when they talk about course setups gone too far. The greens that Saturday were so firm and so fast that players were chipping from the fringe and watching their balls roll 30 feet past the hole. Pin positions were placed on slopes where the ball physically could not stay. The scoring average told the story. Over 75 for the field on a course where par is 70. Players who had prepared all year for the biggest test in golf walked off feeling like they had played a different sport. The USGA called it a firm test. The players called it unfair. 8 years later, the same course is back. The same governing body is running it, and the players are carrying all the frustration from the tour's rule changes into the same week. Shinnecock remembers what it did to those players 8 years ago. The question now is whether the setup will do the talking before anyone else gets the chance. Shinnecock is not just difficult. It is a philosophy. Fast greens that reject anything but a perfect approach. Rough that swallows a slightly missed fairway. Pin positions that make par feel like a birdie. The USGA sets it up to be the hardest test in golf because that is their identity. Scheffler's core complaint, skill replaced by randomness, is exactly what a Shinnecock setup risks producing. A bad bounce, a mud ball, a brutal pin on the wrong afternoon. Even the best player in the world can be knocked out of a championship by a single unlucky break, and the players know it. They watched it happen in 2018. They are walking back into the same design choice, this time carrying all the frustration from the tour's rule changes, the rollback chaos, and the yardage book restrictions. One player is about to walk into that storm chasing the single achievement that would make him immortal, and the people running the course are the same ones he does not fully trust. Sheffler has 4 majors, 2 Masters, the PGA, the Open. The US Open is the only piece missing from the career Grand Slam. If he wins at Shinnecock, he becomes the 7th man in history to complete the set. Hogan, Nicklaus, Player, Sarazen, Tiger, Rory, and him. The final round falls on June 21st. His 30th birthday. You cannot write a better script. He is the betting favorite at plus 450. The form backs it up. Wins, top fives, runner-up finishes stacking up at exactly the right moment. His game is built for this test. Precision, accuracy, mental control over 4 grinding days. Shinnecock should suit him. The cruel twist. The USGA runs this course. The same body his peers called selfish. The same body that delayed the rollback. The same body whose setup philosophy he has publicly questioned. He is walking into their house, chasing the one thing he has never won, on the day he turns 30. Look at the 6 men who completed the career Grand Slam before him. Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy. Every single one of them had to win the US Open to finish the set. Every single one of them had to beat the hardest test the USGA could build. Sheffler is not just chasing a trophy. He is chasing a place in a list that has only 6 names on it. A list that has not added a new name since Rory completed it in 2014. 12 years of waiting. 12 years of the best players in the world trying and failing to join that group. Sheffler gets his shot on his birthday, on the course that broke the field in 2018, run by the governing body his peers have spent 6 months publicly challenging. If he wins, the system gets its story. If the setup breaks him, every warning the players issued stops being a complaint and starts being evidence. June 18th through the 21st, Shinnecock Hills, Southampton, New York. 2 endings waiting. Either the best player in the world rises above the chaos and completes the career Grand Slam on his birthday, silencing every doubt about whether skill still wins, or the setup catches him. A bad bounce, a mud ball, a pin position that turns a great shot into a bogey. And every word Justin Thomas said, every word Bryson said, every word Sheffler said about randomness replacing skill becomes the headline the following Monday. The golf world is watching for more than a trophy. They are watching for the answer to a question that has been building for 6 months. Do the people running this sport still understand the game the players are actually playing? If Sheffler wins cleanly, if he dominates the way he dominated Augusta, the governing bodies get to say the system works. The hardest test produced the best champion. The rules held. The setup was fair. The players can keep complaining, but the result validates the process. If the setup breaks him, if a bad bounce or a brutal pin or a mud ball ends his Grand Slam bid on his birthday, then the 6 months of pushback stop being noise. They become a record. Every quote from Thomas, every word from Bryson, every measured sentence from Sheffler becomes proof that the players saw this coming and the governing bodies did not listen. Sheffler made his position clear. Now he has to prove it the only way that matters. With a golf club in his hands, on the hardest test the game offers, against a governing body he does not fully trust. The pressure is not just on the world number 1. Look at the rest of the field walking onto the first tee at Shinnecock. You have players ranked between number 80 and number 120 in the FedEx Cup standings. These are the guys staring directly at the new exempt card cutoff. Under Rolapp's new structure, the safety net is gone. A missed cut at the US Open does not just mean a bad week. It means dropping below the top 100, losing guaranteed starts for the next season, and suddenly having to play Monday qualifiers just to pay your caddy. The mental weight of that reality changes everything. When the rough is thick and the greens are fast, the math in a player's head becomes louder than the crowd. This is where the structural changes and the tournament rules crash into each other. The tour cut the fields to make the product look better on television. They tightened the drop zones to speed up play. They restricted the green reading books to bring back instinct. All of those decisions sound great in a boardroom presentation. Out on the golf course, under the afternoon sun, with a 2-stroke lead and a career on the line, those decisions feel like traps. The players are being asked to play a harder, faster, more traditional version of golf while simultaneously fighting for fewer available jobs. The friction is unavoidable. Every time a player steps up to a ball buried in the fescue at Shinnecock, they are going to remember the memo that cut 25 jobs. Every time they have to read a green without their book, they are going to remember the rollback debate. The resentment is baked into the grass. The USGA thinks they are testing the complete golfer. The PGA Tour thinks they are modernizing the business. The players just feel like they are the ones paying the price for both agendas. When the first tee shots go up on Thursday morning, the cameras will capture the swings and the scores. What they will not capture is the silent calculation happening behind every player's eyes. The game has changed. The rules have changed. The stakes have never been higher, and the men holding the clubs are finally done pretending they agree with the people writing the rule book. Shinnecock will reveal exactly who can survive that pressure and who will crack under the weight of a sport fighting its own players. The scoreboard will only tell half the story. If this breakdown got you ready for the US Open, subscribe and hit the bell. This story is only going to get louder between now and the first tee at Shinnecock.